because the rest of the world still moves forward. So I think some people sometimes delude themselves thinking, well, I can just sit tight. I can stay where I am and I'm good. That's good enough and that's good enough for me. But in actuality, they'll find over time that they've actually gone backwards. So this is, and entrepreneurship is the one key element that helps drive people. Many of you in the room are entrepreneurs or have entrepreneurial traits because you run your own business. But sometimes that has to be revived because once again, you have the tyranny of the urgent, and it pulls you into doing something, and you kind of start doing the same things you've done before and rely on what you've done in the past. And sometimes that's not what's going to carry you forward. So to kind of set the frame, I wanted to use this example. And being from New York, I thought it made sense. But at MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, back in 1961, they had this painting from Matisse. And it was a famous painting. And as you can see, in a short period of time, less than about a month and a half, about 120,000 people looked at this painting. Now, is anyone familiar with this painting? Has anyone heard of this painting? Okay. All right. The one thing about this painting, and the reason I show it today, is because out of that 119,000 people that viewed it, nobody knew that it was upside down. And the only way they found out was because a person who was a sailor spotted it. And being a sailor, he knew that the keel, which you saw on the other side, could not be on the bottom. You have to have it on the top to have the reflection. And so here was a person who actually knew that it was a sailboat. Because if you're like most people, like myself, when you walk through some of these art museums, you don't even know what the picture is. Much less tell what it's upside down. Right? How many people know if Picasso's pictures are upside down? They're probably meant to be that way. So the point being here is, if you really don't know, if you don't have a trained eye, there's a lot of things that escape you. And so therefore, if you're not looking for opportunity, or if you're not adept at spotting things and trends and movements and things, then usually they do pass you by. And someone else lashes onto them, and then you read about, oh wow, why didn't I think of that? How did they do that? Well, it's because they kind of trained themselves to look at it and take some action. And people always say, well, I don't really want to get on that limb too much because it will break on me. But suffice to say, it's very true. If there is no risk, there is no reward. And so if you're taking a guaranteed path, you're probably taking a path that puts you at risk in another way. And for me, that's not a good place to be. And as an example, ask our friends at Kodak. Okay? Kodak was the #1 world leader in film. Kodak, back in 1975, actually created the first digital camera. And they decided to do nothing with it. Why? Because they were making so much money in film. But what Kodak realized was, we don't live in a vacuum. So by doing nothing and thinking I'm going to capitalize on my cash cow, someone else, called the Japanese, did something about it. And if you've ever seen that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah. Kodak's cheese got moved in a big way. And so Kodak, which used to be about 150,000 employees worldwide, is now down to about 20,000. And Kodak Park, which is where this picture is from, in Rochester, which used to be a city unto itself, is now a wasteland. And so it's an example, and believe me, I'm wishing any bad on Kodak, but it's a pure example, front and center, of what can happen by not taking any action. So again, safety isn't always, hey, I'm not going to take this risk. But sometimes not taking the risk is equally or more damaging than going out and trying something. So as I talked, especially with the people in Michigan, this was one thing that became clear. There were things that people needed to make what they call a quantum leap, and they needed someone to help bring it within reach. And so to me, the principles that we're talking about today is basically how I came up with the name Quantum Reach. And it's simple in the sense that we see something that's big, and a lot of times we feel that it cannot be accomplished. But if you have the right mindset, it's amazing what you can do, things that have never been done before. I bought a house in California one year, and I had a loft area, and they were moving at that time, you don't have they had flat screens like they had today. So if you had a big screen TV, it was about this tall, this thick, and weighed about 1,000 pounds. So the movers came to me and they said, we have a problem. We cannot get your TV up in this loft area. And I said, well, that's interesting. I said, because the person I bought the house from had a TV just like that up there. And they got it up there, and they got it out from there, and now you're telling me you can't get it up there? And I walked away. About 30 minutes later, a guy comes to me and says, Mr. Webb, the TV's up there. I said, great. And he left. And I turned to my wife and I said, I hope no one ever tells him that guy never did have a TV. I figured it was worth a shot. If you think you can do it, then you'll do it. So, let's learn. The other thing about, some things we're going to talk about today is, I'm not saying totally disregard the things that have made you successful or things you've learned in the past, but to me it's a combination of things. So it's, some of us have great schools that we've gone to and got a lot of good book learning. Many of us came up through the streets, learned things through the school of hard knocks. But to me, when you combine both of those together, plus you add in the entrepreneurial spirit, that's the winning combination. I don't think it's either one or the other, it's the combination. And I think we should never forget that. First thing, I think though, you have to step back before you say, hey, okay, that's great, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to just run off and tackle the world, is what's your mission? And I'm very big on this because to me, if you don't know where you're headed, you'll get there real quick, right? and it won't be anywhere. And so it's not just making a statement, but it's, again, what's the essence of what you're trying to achieve? So not just, hey, I want to make money, because to me that's not really a good mission. I think that if you do the right things, the money will come. But to say that in and of itself, to me, that's not that inspiring, especially for other people. So I think if you want to get people to embark on the trip with you, what can they grasp, what can they gravitate to, what can they believe in, and what can they have passion about. And so that's why you have to say, what's my motivation? If I have this business, I don't care if it's a roofing business. What am I trying to do? What's important is that I put roofs on people's houses, or am I making people safe in inclement weather? Am I keeping their clothes and everything else dry? There's other things to do besides just throwing the roof on. So with that, I'll give you 3 examples. And these 3 companies I think are important because it's a tribute to their success. It has a lot to do with their mission. So with Disney, most people, if you ask them on the street, what would Disney's mission be, they would think of, well, either, the theme parks, Mickey Mouse, things like that. But Disney doesn't view themselves that way. They view themselves as family fun entertainment, which explains why they went out and bought ESPN, why they've kind of ventured out into other things that are collectively an entertainment capital, the movies they produce, etc. But it goes back to that mission. Even though theme parks are a disproportionate amount of what they do, that still isn't all-consuming for them. Starbucks. Most people would say coffee. But you notice the word coffee is not mentioned. Because for them, it's all about the experience. I mean, that's why people pay what they pay for a cup of Starbucks coffee. Because they can get coffee almost anywhere far cheaper. But it's that experience that they create that people want to be a part of that. And it's masterful. That's what they've done. Whether or not you like Starbucks coffee or not, how they've created the aura that goes along with premium coffee. You cannot deny that. And then finally, my favorite, and not because I'm from Atlanta, which is where they're based, but that's a pretty bold statement, refresh the world. But that also explains why Coke does what they do, because they also have Dasani, which is water. They have outposts around the world where they sell other products, soft drinks, etc. In fact, if you go to the world of Coke, they actually have a place where you can taste almost every brand of Coke they have from around the world. And some of them taste nothing like the Coke that we drink. And that's why they have a little spittoon there, because most people can't stomach them. But in that part of the world, they love that. All right? But the key is, how they see themselves is not just soda. And so think about that yourself. Like if you were to jot down today, what's your mission? What's behind it? What are we really trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Because I think that is really the key to, making sure you head in the right direction on your investment and future growth strategies. Another thing is vision. Okay, if you have some type of mission, what do you see that others may not see? I think a lot of us, for example, a lot of people employ interior decorators. Why? Because if they walk into an empty room, they cannot see where to put the couch, where to put other things, where to hang a picture. That's just not them. That's not their skill set. They don't have the vision for it. So it's better to get someone else coming here before they screw it up, this nice house they just bought. That's why a lot of people like to buy the model when they go to model homes, because people can't see anything. They say, good, I want it just like that. I want that same couch, I want the same coffee table, I want the same lamp. Right? Because that's safe. And I know someone who knows what they're doing put it there. So, I think by having that vision, having insights, and spotting things that others do not see, that's what also gives you an edge. And I think one of the people that's in the workshop was talking about this niche marketing. And to me, that's very important, because if you segment things out and you start to really delve under the covers of things at a smaller level, you will see things that other people kind of gloss over and miss. And that will lead to you having an advantage. Also, I think that you can't get fixated on the things of the way things are today or the way they were. That is probably Michigan's greatest problem. Because whenever I go there, it doesn't take more than 2 sentences before the word automotive comes up. Why? That's where they made their money. You can't blame them for that. But the problem is, they can't see that that may not be their future. Things have changed. A lot of things are offshore now. Other car companies are far cheaper. They don't have the labor union issues. So therefore, what else can the state do? That doesn't mean that you can't still employ and use some of the things you've learned from the automotive industry. But will it necessarily be the automotive industry that carries you forward? Maybe, maybe not. But there's other things you can do. So for example, back in October or September timeframe, they had a meeting called Techonomy Detroit. Techonomy was founded by David Kilpatrick, who is former managing editor of Fortune magazine. And he decided he was writing a lot about technology companies that became successful. And so he decided to look at the technology impact on the economy, hence Techonomy. And he was taking his roadshow to different cities who, if they were to awaken to how the impact of technology could help that city, great things could happen. And I actually was invited to be one of the speakers at this event. And it was amazing. He had about 800 people attend, of how many things were said that people never thought about, because they were so auto-dominated that they couldn't even think about, well, yeah, that's right, we do have that capability. So for example, the state of Michigan arguably has the most number of engineering students graduate than any other state. But most of those students are going outside the state for opportunity. So one of the strategies is, how do we keep them home? And maybe get those to return home. Because we have all this engineering talent, let's do something with it, not just have them go elsewhere. So that's just one example. When it comes to trying to think of what you want to do, sometimes people think one size fits all, which is not the case. And so these are the 4 key things that I think you can use for your approach. In some cases, you could use all 4 of them together, collectively. That would be a grand slam, quite frankly. But if you could be successful with just one tact, you could go a long way. So for example, an example of a company that uses innovation and has served them well is a company called Apple. Right? I mean, Steve Jobs has always said, his job was coming up with things that people didn't know they wanted. The iPhone, the iPad, all these different things that they've done that 10, 20 years ago were not even leaving people's eyes. Pure innovation and just starting something from scratch, which is very tough to do. Microsoft, what they did with Microsoft Office, etc. So there's examples, but those are big endeavors. But again, if you're into innovation, you can make things happen. Another one that you can do is disrupt other people's businesses. Okay? And that may use some form of innovation, but to maybe do something a different way. And I like this one a lot, because I think there's a lot out here that has been untouched for many years, and just begging someone to come do something about it. One of my favorite examples is Fred Smith. Anybody know who Fred Smith is?
FedEx.
FedEx. Very good. Fred Smith was in school, and he had to do a school paper. And so he decided to do a business idea on overnight mail delivery. And he got a very bad grade. And his teacher actually ridiculed it and said how preposterous it was to think about having overnight delivery when we, A, we have a postal service, B, who's going to pay more money to have something delivered in one day that can be delivered in 3 days maybe. So Fred said fine, he took his grade and started FedEx. And up until a couple of years ago, he would send his professor a Christmas card every year. Yeah. So, there are a lot of businesses that can be disrupted. Your business can be disrupted. So think about that, because you might want to disrupt it a la Kodak before someone else does. So if you see that, I mean, and I always feel this, if you know you have an Achilles heel, fix it. Because someone will find it eventually and they will exploit it. A lot of times we sit and say, well, no one's going to know this. They won't find it. I just leave it be. That's a mistake. So, something to think about. Resolution. Resolution usually is in the service area. How you deliver service customer satisfaction. One of the best in the business, in my book, is a store called Nordstrom's. I know many of you shopped at Nordstrom's, but it's a fabulous experience. It's not a cheap experience,
right,
but you get what you pay for. So I have a friend of mine, lives in California, and he decided that he's going to buy himself a pair of $200 sunglasses at Nordstrom's. And after about 3 weeks of owning the sunglasses, he was driving along, reached on the dash of his car and put the sunglasses on, and they snapped right at the bridge of the nose. And he's thinking, okay, I got a problem. I don't have the receipt. This is probably going to look like I sat on them, because sunglasses just don't snap in the middle. So I guess I better get ready for the fight, because I paid $200 and I don't want my sunglasses. So he goes into Nordstrom's where he bought the sunglasses, walks in, gets to the counter, says, excuse me, I bought these 3 weeks ago, I don't have the receipt. He starts explaining, and the person stops him mid-sentence and says, sir, no issue. He says, we'll just give you a new pair. He's like, wow, I'm relieved. So he goes to find them, and he comes back and says, sir, we got a slight problem. He says, the sunglasses are out of stock. This is a very popular pair. I've called the other 5 stores in the vicinity, and none of them have them in stock either. He says, so we have 2 choices. He says, I can put an order in for the sunglasses. They'll be here roughly in 2 weeks. Have them shipped straight to your house. You won't even have to come into the store. But if you feel you need to have sunglasses today, I will let you pick 2 pairs, each worth $200 for the inconvenience. Do you think he shops at Nordstrom's still? I buy all my sunglasses. The point being, they know keeping a customer happy is an investment over time that will serve them well. It's not that fleeting moment. So those stores who want to beat you down because you don't have a receipt or they have a stringent policy, you can see their mindsets in a different place. They're all about, pinching a penny, managing it for whatever reason they feel like that's how they run their business. But I think Nordstrom's taking a different tack, and it's at serving them. And then the final one is affiliation. And this is one that companies like Google and others are masters at, because they know that if they align themselves with the right products, and the right companies, right services, they can go everywhere. And so that's another thing for yourself is sometimes you don't have to go it alone. You sit there and say, okay, well, I have this business. Again, let's go back to the roofing example. I have this roofing business. Well, maybe there's someone else who builds houses. Maybe there's someone else who does other types of repair work, heat and ventilation work, that you can link up with, share leads, share customers, combine on jobs and bid them together. Then you're more powerful than just yourself. That's okay. You can still be independent, but still have some affiliation. I mean, companies do this all the time, where they link together and they partner. And that's just another way to go about it. So I would say, again, pick the ones that make the most sense for you. If you're very innovative and that's the kind of business you're in, where innovation is king, fine. Are you in a business that could easily be disrupted, has been kind of stayed, has been their way forward? Try that one. What about service? Because I can tell you, if you provide the best service, you will be the lone person standing. Because in this day and age, consumerism is it. People want choice and they want service. Which is why the airlines industry is in a world of hurt right now. And I fly every week, and I can tell you, they don't get it still. All right? They don't get it. The way they treat you, it's like, they forget who the customer is. You don't want to be putting that over. And then finally, is there a partner? Is there someone else that you could affiliate with? Is there someone that you can make stronger? And vice versa, and leverage your strengths. This would just be a clear example if you were just selling apples. In some cases, you have an apple pie, then you throw some cherries in there. Now it's now it's a cherry apple pie, but maybe it's a different flavor, different taste. Some people like that. Also, what about having a mobile app? I mean, almost everything now is mobile. So while the other mom and pops down the street are selling their pies and peddling them, taking them to the store, or maybe you have to look in the newspaper, they're bringing it right to your smartphone. Or there's special shipping where you say, look, I'll deliver this on Christmas. You start doing things like that, people pay attention. Once you become your customer, you keep them as your customer. Also, is there things custom-wise you can do to resolve issues that you see that you've always, and that's how a lot of things are started, is that people sit there and say, you know what, I can't find anyone to do what I'm trying to do. Therefore, I'm going to have to create it myself. That's how eBay was started. eBay was started by a guy who was helping his wife. She was a Pez collector, the Pez dispensers. And he was trying to find other people who wanted to trade these things. And that's how he created eBay. It basically changed all retail shopping forever. So again, there's things you think about that are irritant. You sit there and say, well, I wish someone would fix this. Why not you fix it? And then finally, what about specialty stores? What about different things you could try? Trader Joe's, great store. I don't know if you've ever shopped there.
Great.
If you go to Trader Joe's, there's one product in particular that they do not have. It's called Coca-Cola. And being in Atlanta, that's a blasphemy to say you don't have Coca-Cola. But I talked to the guy who ran Trader Joe's, and I asked him why no Coke. And he said, because they can get that anywhere. I want them to come to Trader Joe's to get something they can't get other places. That's what makes us unique. That's why people come to us. That's our mission. And so, and he's done quite well without selling Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola's still doing well without selling to him. So everybody's happy. This from Rockefeller. It basically says, let others go down the tried and true. If you want to make a mark, you got to take a different path. But that's, again, back to the beginning slides, it takes risk. The courage to go do it. But what happens if it doesn't work? Believe it or not, you'll still be standing. You go to Silicon Valley, which I go to probably once every other month. It's a badge of honor to say you failed at something. If you haven't failed at something, they don't even believe it. They're like, you're not doing anything. You haven't tried hard enough. If you come and tell me you've never failed at anything, that's what they look for. Is people who have gone out and tried, skinned their knees, learned from it, and come and done something else. So that's what this is about. But the other king, even more important to this one, this is from an even better philosopher, Yoda. And I love this saying, okay, because it's so true. Do or do not, there is no try. Don't say I'm going to try it. Either do it or don't do it. Because that's what keeps you from doing things. It's like, well, I'll get to that later. I don't know. Maybe I'll try that later. It's like, either stop talking about it or go do it. And then so it's an argument whether it can be done or not. Okay. So, with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions you have about anything I've said today, about the things that are happening in Michigan. In fact, I have a few of these cards. You can stop up and see me later. This is one example of what's happening in Detroit. It's a company called Bisdom. Bisdom is a non-profit Accelerator. And an accelerator, different from an incubator, what they do is they help businesses who just are a concept. They give them money to get started. They house them in Detroit for 3 to 6 months, and then they move on to either get funding or go to an incubator to take it to the next level. It was founded by Dan Gilbert. Anybody know who Dan Gilbert is? Dan Gilbert is the founder of Quicken Loans, billionaire, and also owner of Cleveland Cavaliers, and not LeBron James' best friend. But Dan Gilbert's from Michigan, and this is his way of trying to help Michigan. So what he did was he bought $50 million worth of real estate in Detroit. Quite frankly, I think $50 million could buy Detroit, but he got a few buildings. Well, he decided, I'm buying these buildings because now we need businesses to inhabit them, and I'm going to help those businesses grow. And he founded Wisdom. It's a great business. They've been doing this for a couple years now. I am actually been enlisted to be one of their mentors, so I'm going to be working with a lot of their portfolio companies to try to help them. You know, because sometimes when they leave the accelerator stage, the cake is still half baked. So they need someone to take it to the next level. And so I'm going to be one of those people who help do that. So it's going to be a fun ride working with him and his team on Wisdom. But I mean, this is just one idea of many things that people are doing throughout the state, which are not only just privy to Michigan, but can be done elsewhere. There's also a Wisdom in Cleveland as well. Okay? So with that, floor is open. Happy to take any questions you may have. Right there.
John, when you talk about revitalizing the state, as in the state of Michigan, do you foresee something like one large ecosystem like they used to have with the automobile industry? Or do you see a set of smaller ecosystems, since each entrepreneur is going to have their own idea of what they want to do in business?
Okay. I would say, I would call it an eco-universe in a way, because each region in Michigan is a little different. Southeast Michigan, where Detroit is, has different issues than the western part of the state, where Whirlpool is, than northern Michigan has, than the middle part of the state, where Lansing is. So each of them, but still, entrepreneurship is the one piece that binds them all. Each one of them, some of them have accelerators, some of them have incubators, some of them, quite frankly, don't know what the hell they're doing. So they're just shotgunning. So what we're trying to do is go to each of the regions. They've actually established what they'll call smart zones. There are 7 across the state. And each of them are dealing with the particular issues of that geographic location. But they still are entrepreneurial related. So how do you work with and seed companies and take medium-sized companies to become big companies by helping them unlock the key to maybe it's they need to do more exporting business. Maybe there's other things that they need that they don't have access to. That's what we try to help do, and that's what we're trying to help breed. So it's bigger than just one size fits all, but it's still entrepreneurship.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's fantastic. You guys are looking forward to, incubating mid-sized companies to large companies. What we do, we like to train people who really have a company. And I'd be curious to hear what you guys are doing a mission to help people who are mom and pops and trying to learn how to do the things like that, and how to kind of, encapsulate their ideas so you can get to the small, to the big, and get into that pipeline that you're trying to.
Okay. So I use those particular examples, but his question was, what about, say, mom and pops, or people thinking about mom and pop? So we got something for everybody. So there are different incubators across the state where people can go. If they have an idea, they pitch. If they pass muster with the pitch, they're allowed to maybe be in a place for 6, 9, 12 months, or they have a series of people that will help train them and give workshops to help educate them on the things they need to know. Because as you know, some people have an expertise, but they may not have the business expertise. They might not have the marketing savvy. They might not have the technical piece. So we kind of marry them with subject matter experts to get things done. Also, there is a community that is investing in people. So right now you hear about this crowdfunding, what's going on? Well, there's an event that happens every quarter in Michigan called Detroit Soup. What that is, they pick a warehouse location. And they send out flyers. And everyone can come, anybody can come for $5, and you get a bowl of soup. But what the show is really about is, there's usually 10 to 15 entrepreneurs that pitch their idea. The one who wins that night keeps the pot. Well, it may only be $2,500. But $2,500 to the person who had $1 is a lot of money. Especially if you just need to get started, get some supplies, whatever. It's a fabulous program. And the other part about it is the sense of community. Because when you get there, people start talking. They start exchanging cards. They start saying, you know what, I've been thinking about doing this. I got a windshield wiper business. You sell windshields, let's do something. It's amazing. I love the event. You know, and it's all casual. People eating soup, sitting on the floor, whatever. But it's all about the sense of community and the common bond that we're all here trying to help each other make a living. Okay? So there's a lot of things going on. And we can talk further if you have any questions about it.
I have a question. Bill Parrish, Noble Strategy, my company. So many times entrepreneurs talk about growth and access to capital as if all they need is more money and everything will be fine. I had a chance to talk to some venture capitalists, and they kind of think like if they can't make 10 times their money within 5 years, they don't want to talk to you. And then banks on the other end of the spectrum don't always want to talk to you. What have you seen work for growth for entrepreneurs who might be in between the venture capitals and the banks?
Okay, so his point was banks, which are very risk averse, and I know that because I also have a real estate business on the side, and you can't get a loan. And then venture capital, private equity, they're looking for big fish, okay? Because they're looking for big payouts. Because if you're a venture capital firm and you have, let's say, $500 million to deploy, you can't make any money investing $500,000. So that's why it's set up the way it is. But in between that, though, there are angels. You know, besides family and friends, there are angels, there are foundations, there are other groups that, if you approach them correctly, and even governmental agencies, that will give you money. So you would be best to explore all of those avenues before you even go to a VC. Because if you go to VC, you're going to give up a piece of your business, and sometimes control, which you may not want to do. So think long and hard about that route. Now, when you get big enough, you do want to talk to them because that's how you get paid. That's how you get the exit strategy. But talk to them when the time is right. And when you're very small, they're not the right persons to go to. It's other areas. And like I mentioned before, that crowdfunding, there's a lot going on now with crowdfunding where people can put something out there and then next thing you know, they raise $50,000 from everybody contributing $200 a piece, if you can pull that off. But I mean, there's a lot of different strategies. It's not easy. You're in a very tough area when you're just starting out because you have no experience, you have no proof, and most people want proof. It's like, that's what the banks want. Well, if you tell me you've been in this 5 years, I'm going to loan you money because now you show stability. Well, you know, I need the money now. I'll come back in 5 years and borrow some more money, but right now I need the money. Okay, so therefore you got to start to sit there and say, what else do I do? Do I have equity in something else? Can I put this up, etc.? Do I have someone who can buy in the past? And that's why having that mission is important, because if you get the right mission, people become passionate about it. Be surprised what they'll do to help you and how they will contribute. And it might not just be money. Another thing to think about, though, is sometimes a lot of these, and I see this all the time, some of the companies I get pulled in to help, they don't need money. They need adult supervision. You got people, just because you slap CEO on your title of your card, you know, they can't even spell it. You know, they can't read a balance sheet. They're doing, you know, they get monies that people gave them and they're spending the wrong thing. I mean, you think about the dot-com era before it exploded. Oh, yeah. What did some of those companies do? Go out and put their name on a stadium. You know, why not worry about make your product better and sell something instead of the big splash? And now they're gone. And I find a lot of these, their priorities are not in the right place. They're not doing the right things. And so that's what myself and others in some of these initiatives try to do, is help them get the priorities straight, work on the right things, build that foundation, then go from there. And then you need money, it'll come because people will have confidence in what you're doing. But if they see that you're flying from the seat of your pants, it's highly unlikely anyone will give you a dime, unless it's your parents. And then they'll hold it over your head. Every time you see it, where's my money?
Jeff John and I have my own Incubator, 15 years founded. I want want to say to you, could you talk about the significance of regionalism and how that is the new focus? It is not about geographic. It's not about this city, not about this county, not about the state. It's about regionalism. Just like Florida in reference to tourism, just like Silicon Valley in reference to IT. Basically, regionalism is going to be the day. But the key thing is basically also is linking with angel investors, because angel investors don't not only bring the money, but they bring their network. And I think that they can be key components in reference to this whole regional focus. But I see that you have been throughout the country, and you have some good examples. I'd like if you could share that.
Okay, sure. I'm not sure there's a question in there. It was more of a statement. I think that, you know, and I do believe that there are many different paths, and one of the ones he just mentioned is a key one. Because to me, I said this to someone earlier, do not try to boil the ocean. It cannot be done. So if you segment things in a way that are manageable and where you can really have an impact and find others who have that same commonality, then you move the needle. Also, what he said, a key word about the network that is national. A lot of times, like even when I talk to the people in Michigan, their big deal was, okay, well, we know all these people throughout the state. Well, all the people in the state, guess what? They know the same thing. What about the people in Texas? What about the people in California? What about people in Boston? They had different issues. They had to solve different problems. They have different levels of expertise, a different way of coming about something. You start to enlist them. That's why it was smart on the Business Leaders for Michigan part to go get people like me, who are not in the state of Michigan, who could care less about the auto industry. You know, I'm more from the healthcare industry. And I tried to show them that that's probably one of the biggest places you should be is in the healthcare field, because that's the boom. You know, auto's great, but start thinking about these other things. So I think it does broaden yourself to look outside of your comfort zone and your immediate vicinity. Go outside of your zip code. You know, because a lot of times it's comfortable to say, well, you know, I got my network, I got my cards, but if you look at them, they're all in New Jersey. Or maybe some of them in New York City. That's a big leap for me. Well, how many cards do you have from Seattle, from Washington, D.C.? Because that's when you start to branch out. That's when you start to get new schools of thought. And you might find things that they're doing out there that you're not even doing. I deal with, one of the other things that I deal with some nonprofits. And I work with Pepperdine University with a micro-enterprise program. A micro-enterprise, which was kind of founded in India, where they would just give someone $100 to start a business. Same concept here in America, but this particular program is geared toward the homeless. And so what Pepperdine does is they go into homeless shelters. They identify people who have business acumen, because some of the people in the shelters, they were once successful people and got on that bad spiral and went down. Well, they find those people, they put them in a program, they bus them to Malibu, which is where Pepperdine is, from downtown Los Angeles, teach them once a week for 9 months. If they pass this and get a certificate, they have investors who stand ready to invest in them to start their own business. Only place in the country doing this. For 3 years running, I've been one of the instructors. The reason they asked me is because they didn't want it to be a purely academic exercise. And they knew what I was doing around the country. They said, we want people like you, John, to be able to help and give them perspective. And I said, I'd gladly do it. I fly at my own expense, I go there, I do it. And I love doing it. My next one is in 2 weeks, actually. I teach 2 modules every year. So, it's again, Pepperdine's smart enough to reach out and say, we want people from around the country to help us with this. We know we're not smart enough to solve this by ourselves. So I think always, it goes back to my thing about affiliation. Always think about how to branch out, how to use that network, and how to expand your network. Because, to me, that's the key. I live by this. This is a Chinese proverb. Chinese proverb says, smart man knows everything. Wise man knows everybody. I'm more wise than smart.
Okay. All right.
You done?
Yeah.
All right, got the hook.